A pregnant woman, a cage, a crane, and two cops who decided to play kings of the world. This isn't a joke or a bad prank. It's a reality that spiraled out of control. They thought it was their little show, but they had no idea who was already watching. Buckle up. Things are about to get even more intense. Let me set the scene for you. My name's Erica Watson. I'm 28 years old, and I'm about as pregnant as a human can be without bursting. Picture me waddling through a grocery store on a Friday afternoon, clutching a list of cravings that could make a chef cry: pickles, hot sauce, and marshmallows. Yeah, don't judge. Being pregnant gives you a free pass to be weird. Anyway, it started as one of those days that felt too normal, like something is definitely about to go wrong normal. The sky was too clear, and my favorite parking spot at the store was actually open. I should have known. Red flags, right? But nope, I was blissfully oblivious until I noticed the cop car trailing behind me as I turned into the parking lot. At first, I told myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe they were grabbing donuts or whatever cops do on a Friday. But then they parked a little too close. You know that feeling when you're being watched? Yeah, that. I ignored it, grabbed a cart, and started on my mission. Pickles, check. Marshmallows, check. I was eyeing the hot sauce aisle when I caught sight of them again. Two cops, white guys, standing at the end of the aisle, like they owned the place. One of them, let's call him Officer Rude, had this smirk plastered on his face, like he was waiting for me to do something interesting. His buddy, Officer Nosy, nudged him and said something I couldn't hear, and they both chuckled. Charming. Can I help you? I said, trying to keep my tone polite because, pregnant hormones. Officer Rude took a step closer. Just making sure everything's all right here, ma'am, he said, the word ma'am dripping with sarcasm. Great, I shot back. Everything's fantastic. Thanks for asking. I turned my back and kept moving, but I could feel their eyes boring into me. It was like being stalked by overly nosy neighbors, except these neighbors had badges and way too much time on their hands. Fast forward to the checkout line. I'm loading my stuff onto the belt when they show up again. This time, they weren't even pretending to be subtle. Mind if we take a look at your receipt when you're done? Officer Nosy asked, leaning against the counter like this was his personal comedy club. Actually, I do mind, I said, my voice calm but firm. Why do you need to see it? Just a routine check, Officer Rude chimed in. Making sure everything's in order. Right, I said, folding my arms. Because pregnant women are such a security risk. The cashier, bless her heart, looked like she wanted to disappear. I handed over my card, grabbed my receipt, and held it out. Here, knock yourselves out. They glanced at it for all of 2 seconds before exchanging looks. Officer Nosy shrugged, and Officer Rude smirked again. Have a nice day, he said, his tone making it clear that he didn't mean it. I walked out of the store, my pulse racing. I told myself it was over. Just a couple of bored cops trying to flex their authority. But, oh, how wrong I was. As I reached my car, I felt a hand on my arm. I spun around to see Officer Rude holding out a pair of handcuffs. You're coming with us, he said, as casually as if he were inviting me to lunch. What? I nearly dropped my bags. On what grounds? Suspicious behavior, Officer Nosy said, shrugging like it was no big deal. Suspicious? Are you serious? My voice was shaking now. I'm 8 months pregnant. What kind of threat could I possibly be? But they didn't answer. They just slapped the cuffs on me and shoved me into the back of their patrol car. As we pulled out of the parking lot, my mind was racing. What just happened? Was this some kind of sick joke? And where the hell were they taking me? Little did I know this was only the beginning. All right, so there I was, strapped into the backseat of a patrol car, my grocery bags still sitting on the pavement back at the store. Let me tell you, this wasn't exactly how I imagined my Friday going. Every bump in the road felt like an insult, and I couldn't stop thinking, seriously? Pregnant me is the biggest criminal they could find today? The two officers up front, Officer Rude and Officer Nosy, were having a grand old time. They were laughing, cracking jokes, and acting like this was their idea of entertainment. Meanwhile, I was sitting there, trying to figure out how a pregnant woman buying hot sauce and marshmallows qualified as suspicious behavior. I leaned forward, or at least as much as my belly would let me. Excuse me, I said, trying to keep my tone steady. But where are we going? Officer Rude glanced at me in the rearview mirror, his smirk as annoying as ever. You'll see, he said. Just sit tight. Sit tight, easy for him to say. He wasn't the one sitting on a hard plastic seat with handcuffs digging into his wrists. "Look," I said, my voice sharper now. "This is a mistake. You can't just haul people off for no reason." Officer Nosy turned around, flashing me a grin that made my skin crawl. "Oh, we have our reasons. You'll understand soon enough." Now, I'm no mind reader, but I could tell these guys weren't exactly the protect and serve type. They were enjoying this way too much, and that made me nervous. Scratch that. It made me downright scared. After what felt like an eternity, we pulled into a construction site. It was one of those places that looked like it had been abandoned halfway through the job. Rusty equipment, piles of rubble, and not a single worker in sight. My heart was pounding now. Whatever this was, it wasn't official business. The car stopped, and they dragged me out, their grips tight on my arms. I tried to stand my ground. "I don't know what kind of game this is, but you're messing with the wrong person." "Game?" Officer Rude said, chuckling. "Oh, it's not a game. It's just a little fun." A little fun? That's when I saw it. A metal cage sitting off to the side, big enough to fit a person. My stomach dropped. "You've got to be kidding me," I said, my voice trembling. "Nope," Officer Nosy said, unlocking the cage. "Step right in." I froze. "You can't be serious." "Oh, we're dead serious," Officer Rude said, shoving me forward. "Don't worry. It's perfectly safe. Probably." They locked the door behind me, the sound of the metal bolt sliding into place, echoing in my ears. I gripped the bars, my heart racing. "This is illegal," I yelled. "You're going to regret this." But they weren't listening. They were busy attaching the cage to a crane. That's right, a crane. My jaw dropped as I watched them fiddle with the controls, the machine roaring to life. "Let's see how brave you are up there," Officer Nosy said, his grin wider than ever. The cage jerked upward, and my stomach did a somersault. I clung to the bars, my knuckles white. "Are you insane? I'm pregnant. You can't do this." "Relax," Officer Rude called up, his voice dripping with mockery. "Think of it as a free ride." The cage kept rising, the ground getting farther and farther away. I could see the city skyline in the distance, but down below, all I saw were two grinning officers, watching like this was their personal reality show. The wind picked up, making the cage sway. Every creak of the metal sent a jolt of fear through me. My baby kicked as if to say, "Hey, Mom, what's going on here?" I pressed a hand to my belly, trying to steady my breathing. This couldn't be happening. "All right, let's get her to scream," Officer Nosy said, pulling out his phone to record. "Think she's scared yet?" I gritted my teeth, refusing to give them the satisfaction. "You're both going to lose your jobs for this?" I shouted down at them. But they just laughed. Sure, Officer Rude said. "We'll send you the video as a souvenir." Just then, the cage jolted hard, making me lose my balance. I fell against the bars, clutching them to keep from hitting the floor. My heart was racing so fast I thought it might burst. "This isn't over," I screamed, hoping anyone, would hear me. And that's when I noticed someone standing off to the side. A construction worker, maybe? He had his phone out, pointing it at the scene. For the first time, a flicker of hope sparked in my chest. Maybe this nightmare was about to end, or maybe it was just getting started. Let me tell you, hanging in a metal cage 60 feet off the ground wasn't exactly on my bucket list. The wind whipped through the bars, rocking me back and forth like some terrifying carnival ride nobody asked for. I clung to the cold metal, my breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Down below, Officer Rude and Officer Nosy were having the time of their lives, pointing, laughing, and recording like this was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. "Smile for the camera," Officer Nosy shouted, waving his phone around. "Yeah, make it look good for the folks back home," Officer Rude added, his voice dripping with mockery. I didn't respond. Honestly, I was too focused on not losing my grip. Or my mind. My baby kicked again, and I pressed a shaky hand to my belly, whispering, "Hang in there, little one. Mommy's got this." Though, to be fair, I wasn't sure I believed it myself. Then I saw him. The guy with the phone. He was standing just outside the construction zone, partially hidden behind a stack of pallets. He looked like one of those no-nonsense types, hard hat, safety vest, the works. But what caught my attention was the determined look on his face. He wasn't just watching, he was filming. Suddenly he stepped closer, shouting, "Hey, what the hell are you doing up there?" The two officers froze for a second, then turned to face him. "Mind your business, buddy," Officer Rude said, waving him off. "We've got it under control." Under control? The guy shot back, pointing at the cage. You call that under control? She's pregnant, you maniacs. Relax, Officer Noses, he said, putting on his best fake charm. It's just a little joke. A joke? The guy's voice went up an octave. You're out here endangering someone's life and you think it's funny? That's when Officer Rude's smirk faded a bit. I said, back off, he snapped, his tone sharper now. This doesn't concern you. But the worker didn't budge. Oh, it concerns me, all right. I'm calling this in. My heart leapt. Finally, someone with common sense. But before I could feel too relieved, Officer Rude stormed toward him, grabbing his phone. You don't want to do that, pal. Oh, I think I do, the guy shot back, yanking his phone out of reach. What are you going to do? Arrest me for having morals? While they argued, something incredible happened. Another man appeared, this one in a crisp suit and aviator sunglasses, moving with the kind of authority that turned heads. It didn't take me long to realize who it was, my husband, Thomas Watson. Now let me tell you, Thomas isn't the kind of guy who raises his voice. He doesn't have to. When he speaks, people listen, and when he glares, they scatter. And right now, he was glaring like I'd never seen before. What's going on here? Thomas demanded, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. The officers spun around, their smug expressions vanishing in an instant. Chief Watson? Officer Nosy stammered. We were just, running a drill. A drill? Thomas's voice was icy. Does this drill involve endangering my pregnant wife's life? The color drained from their faces. Your wife? Officer Rude choked out. Yeah, Thomas said, stepping closer. My wife. So let me ask you again, what the hell is going on here? Before they could come up with another lame excuse, the construction worker chimed in. These idiots thought it'd be funny to lock her in a cage and dangle her over the site. I've got it all on video. Thomas turned to him. You recorded this? Every second, the man said, holding up his phone. And I've already sent it to a few people. You know, just in case. Thomas nodded, then looked back at the officers. Hand over the keys, now. They didn't argue. Officer Rude fumbled with his pocket, pulling out the key and tossing it over. Thomas caught it in one swift motion and strode to the crane's controls. Within moments, the cage began to descend, the creaking sound making my heart race even faster. As soon as it touched the ground, Thomas ran to me, unlocking the door and helping me out. You okay? He asked, his hand steadying me. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I am now. Thomas turned back to the officers, his expression hard as stone. You two are done. Badge, gun, now. But, Chief, Officer Nosy started. No, Thomas snapped. I don't want to hear it. You're both under investigation for gross misconduct, endangerment, and abuse of power. You want to fight it? Go ahead. But let me warn you, this video is going viral as we speak. The workers who'd gathered around cheered as the officers reluctantly handed over their badges and guns. Thomas didn't even flinch. He just turned to me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. Let's go home, he said softly. As we walked away, I couldn't help but glance back. The two officers stood there, their smugness replaced with panic. And for the first time all day, I felt a flicker of satisfaction. Justice might not always come quickly, but when it does, it's worth every second of the wait. How would you have handled this situation if you were in Thomas's place? What do you think about how he reacted? Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you or someone you know ever experienced anything similar? Let us know, and don't forget to like and share this story if it resonated with you. This story was created to shine a light on real issues and to inspire change for the better. Your opinion matters, and together, we can help make the world a kinder, fairer place.